In the far reaches of the galaxy, where stars burned like scattered jewels and nebulae painted the void with colors no human eyes had ever named, humanity had become a curiosity, not a respected force, not a feared one, but a subject of amusement. The alien empires, vast and ancient, watched with thinly veiled contempt as humans dared to spread across the stars. Their generals, towering and alien, with limbs that bent in impossible angles and eyes that gleamed like molten metal, gathered. Aboard the flagship Zorath, the ship floated like a fortress of nightmares, massive enough to swallow moons, bristling with weapons that could shatter planets. A holographic map shimmered above the central deck, showing human fleets scattered across the systems of the outer rim. Each dot pulsed with faint blue light, tiny fragile specks compared to the alien armada that surrounded them. General Kryvis's claws tapped impatiently on the map, and a low, rumbling laugh vibrated through the chamber. "Look at them," he said, his voice rough and metallic. "Primitive ships, foolish pilots, pathetic formations. Their so-called strategy is laughable. They will vanish like sparks in a storm." Beside him, General Vorel swiveled her segmented head, clicking, her mandibles in delight. "A fleet so small, yet they claim to challenge the Grand Armada. It is almost insulting. I have seen asteroid storms more organized than their so-called maneuvers. We need only press a single attack, and their worlds will fall like ripe fruit into our hands." The other generals nodded, their laughter filling the chamber, echoing against the metallic walls. They did not know, could not know, that the humans' weakness was an illusion, that the simplicity of human design, the smallness of their fleets, was a deliberate choice. Every ship, every pilot, every crew member was part of a plan that no alien mind could fully see. Across the gulf of space, in the command bridge of the Earth Fleet's flagship, Captain Elena Marcus watched the stars, her face calm under the soft glow of her console screens. Her crew moved with quiet precision around her, young and old, veterans and fresh recruits, but each performing their role like cogs in a perfect machine. Though their ships were modest, their weapons limited, their shields not as strong as the Grand Armadas, there was something unmeasurable within them. Human resolve. "Ryu," Elena said softly to her second-in-command, Commander Ryu Tanaka. "They are laughing at us. They don't understand how we think. But that is exactly why we will win. They do not know what we are capable of." Ryu glanced at the map, then at the tiny dots representing their fleet. "Captain, they outnumber us by thousands. One mistake." His voice trailed, unspoken but heavy with the weight of possibility. Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. "They underestimate our unity, our courage. That is their weakness. Fear and numbers do not define victory. Strategy and heart do. Remember that." As if on cue, the Grand Armada sent a single probe ship into human territory, expecting a simple reconnaissance mission. It glided toward them silently, scanning every ship, analyzing shields, weapons, and formations. The alien generals watched its progress with smug confidence, expecting instant reports of weak points and errors. "See," Kryvis said, "they are unprepared. Their shields are weak, their formation haphazard. Victory will be effortless." But on the human fleet, the probe disappeared, vanished. There was no flash, no explosion, just empty space where it had been seconds before. The crew blinked, uncertain. Elena's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "They are underestimating us," she said, "and that is our advantage." The humans had learned to use the void itself as a weapon. Stealth, misdirection, traps hidden in the darkness of space. They had mastered it in ways the aliens could not even imagine. Every ship, every maneuver, every quiet signal was part of a larger plan designed not to overwhelm, but to confuse, frustrate, and ultimately defeat the arrogant invaders. Meanwhile, the alien generals grew restless. Kryvis's eyes flared with irritation. "A probe cannot disappear," he hissed, his voice trembling with anger. "This is impossible. They are not advanced enough. There must be a trick, a flaw, a glitch." Voral's mandibles clicked, sharper this time. Or, they are smarter than we believed. But no, humans are unpredictable, chaotic creatures. They cannot possibly coordinate such precision across a fleet of hundreds. There must be an explanation. Far below them, humanity prepared. Pilots checked controls, engineers adjusted shields, and soldiers loaded weapons. Yet there was no panic, no fear. There was determination. Quiet, steadfast, human determination. They had faced horrors before, aliens who burned worlds, enemies who killed without mercy, but they had survived. And now, they would show the galaxy that human resilience was not to be mocked. Elena turned to her crew one last time, her voice rising, not in anger but in calm conviction. They think we are weak. They believe our numbers, our technology, are nothing. But we have something they cannot measure: imagination, courage, and unity. Today, humanity will prove that even the smallest spark can ignite the stars. The aliens laughed again, a sound meant to intimidate. They did not realize that laughter could blind them to the truth. They did not see the determination in human eyes, the quiet confidence of a people who refuse to be conquered. In the darkness of space, under the glittering stars, a small fleet prepared for a war it could not yet win, but a war it would never surrender. And somewhere in the void, unseen, the humans' first move was already in motion. A subtle shift in the cosmic chessboard that would soon leave the Grand Armada questioning everything they thought they knew. The human fleet moved like shadows across the starfield, quiet and deliberate. Every ship was a small glowing point of light, each following an invisible thread in the cosmic weave of their plan. Captain Elena Marcus stood on the bridge of her flagship, her eyes scanning the void, sensing more than just the movements of enemy fleets. She felt the weight of humanity's survival in her chest, a steady drumbeat of courage and resolve. "Distance reports?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying authority. "Scouts report all Grand Armada vessels moving toward our last known position," Commander Ryu Tanaka replied. "They are confident. They have not detected our main fleet." Elena nodded. "Good. Let them come. Patience is our weapon as much as firepower." Far away, aboard the flagship Zorath, General Krivas frowned at the holographic display. "They have hidden their main fleet," he hissed. "Impossible. There should be no room for such deception in human design." Voral's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Perhaps we underestimated them. Prepare for direct assault. We will find them and crush them in moments." The alien generals did not notice the subtle movements of humanity's ships around them. The humans were not waiting in formation. They were scattered, small groups drifting silently, like shards of starlight, blending into the nebulae and asteroid belts. Every ship was positioned to lure the alien fleet deeper into the void, into corridors of space that were carefully chosen and known only to human navigators. Inside the Earth fleet's flagship, Elena watched the approach of the first alien squadron. Her fingers brushed over the control panel lightly, issuing commands not with force but with precision. "Deploy decoy drones," she said. "Set the graviton traps in Sector 7 and 9. Let them think they are chasing us. Let them think. They are in control." The decoy drones, tiny and reflective, moved outward like a swarm of artificial fireflies. They projected false energy signatures that mimicked the presence of human warships, confusing the alien sensors. When the aliens adjusted their targeting systems, they were drawn into a series of gravity wells. Human-engineered distortions of space-time that slowed their ships, made them appear larger or smaller, and interfered with their energy weapons. Krivas growled, his metallic claws striking the table. "Sensors are lying. They are using—" "What is this sorcery?" Voral hissed in frustration. "It is impossible. Human technology should not be capable of manipulating space like this. Yet we are trapped, and our squads are slowing down, for the humans, it was not magic. It was ingenuity. Years of observing stellar phenomena, calculating orbital paths, and understanding the fabric of space itself had given them tools the aliens could never predict. They were using the galaxy itself as a weapon. Captain Elena's eyes softened as she watched the alien ships flounder in the traps. She knew that many of them would not survive this engagement, and it weighed on her. Humanity did not rejoice in destruction, but survival often demanded sacrifice. She silently promised herself that they would honor every life lost in this struggle. "Hold formation, but stay hidden," she instructed. "Let them overextend. Let them believe they are winning." Hours passed, measured only by the slow drift of stars and the faint hum of engines. The alien generals grew restless. Krivis's anger flared and Voral's patience snapped. "We are wasting resources," Krivis shouted. "These humans are tricking us, and we have fallen into their trap. We must act now." Elena's voice echoed quietly over the fleet comms. "They act out of fear and arrogance," she said to her crew. "We act with patience and precision. This is how we survive. This is how we win." The humans began to close in. With careful timing, the small groups of ships that had been scattered now converged, forming pockets of concentrated firepower in the corridors the aliens had been forced into. The alien fleet, massive and imposing, could not maneuver easily in the tight sectors of space chosen by the humans. Beams of energy glanced off shields, weapons misfired, and massive ships became trapped against nebula clouds that distorted their sensors. On board the Zorath, panic began to ripple through the bridge. Voral's voice shook, though she tried to hide it. They are everywhere. How can so few?" Krivis roared, pounding a clawed hand against the table. "Impossible. They are human. They are playing with us. This cannot be." For the first time, doubt crept into the minds of the Grand Armada's finest. Every false confidence they had relied upon, their superior numbers, their advanced weapons, their experience, was crumbling. The humans had turned their mocking into an advantage. Every misstep they had expected, every weakness they believed in had been anticipated and transformed into a trap. Elena remained calm as the first alien ships began to falter. She did not shout in triumph, nor did she gloat. She only focused on the next move. Each alien vessel that became trapped, each attack that failed, was a step toward survival and eventual victory. Humanity's strength was not in the size of their fleet, but in the courage and cleverness of each individual. In the depths of space, a quiet confidence spread among human crews. Young pilots who had once feared the stars now flew with purpose. Engineers and tacticians watched their plans unfold perfectly. Soldiers braced for attack but found themselves in a position of advantage. For the first time, the humans felt the thrill of turning the tide, of using their intellect and spirit to challenge an empire that had thought them weak. By the time the alien generals realized the full scale of their mistake, it was already too late. They had overextended into regions of space they could not control. Their massive ships could not maneuver effectively, and human forces had already begun to isolate entire squadrons. Elena's voice was calm, but firm over the comms. "Prepare for the final phase. We finish this not with numbers but with precision. Humanity survives because we act when others falter." Somewhere deep in the galaxy, the Grand Armada began to understand the first taste of fear. The mocking they had offered humanity, the laughter at what they believed was weakness, was fading. In its place grew the icy certainty that the humans they had underestimated were far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. And in the silence between the stars, the first phase of humanity's counterstrike was complete. The aliens had entered the trap, and the humans were ready to strike where it hurt most. Proud, arrogant, and blind to the simple truth, a small spark could ignite the cosmos. The stars stretched endlessly before the human fleet, quiet and patient, as though the universe itself held its breath. Captain Elena Marcus stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display, watching the alien ships flounder in the corridors of space humanity had carefully prepared. Each alien vessel was a colossus trapped in a cage of gravity wells and decoy signals, moving blindly as humans observed and waited. Commander Ryu Tanaka stepped beside her, his brow furrowed. "Captain, they're beginning to realize something is wrong. Their formations are breaking. Smaller groups are separating from the main fleet." Elena nodded slowly. "Good. Let them separate. The smaller they are, the easier it is to contain them. But we must be ready. They will lash out where they can. They will try to escape. Across the void, the Grand Armada was in chaos. General, Crevis's claws drummed furiously against the command console and his eyes glowed with frustration. This is not possible. Human numbers cannot dominate our fleets. They are insignificant. Voral's mandibles clicked nervously. They are using the terrain, the space itself. Our weapons are hindered. We cannot predict their movements. It is infuriating. The alien generals had spent centuries commanding vast empires, winning wars across galaxies, yet now they were outsmarted by creatures they had laughed at. They had mocked human strategy, assuming humans were weak, disorganized, and unworthy of attention. That mockery now turned to fear. In the human flagship, the crew moved with quiet focus. Pilots adjusted their positions, staying hidden in nebulae and asteroid clusters. Engineers monitored shields and weapons, ensuring every system was at peak efficiency. Soldiers prepared for boarding operations, knowing some alien vessels might be disabled but not destroyed. Elena watched them all with pride. This was more than a battle. It was proof that humans could fight as one even when the odds were against them. Deploy the second wave, Elena ordered. Activate the magnetic traps and guide the separated squadrons into Sector 12. Small bursts of energy moved outward from human ships, invisible to most sensors but powerful enough to subtly shift the trajectories of alien vessels. One by one, the Grand Armada ships drifted toward the trap. The corridors of space were no longer neutral. They had become a labyrinth designed to immobilize and confuse. A young pilot, Lieutenant Mara Singh, gripped her controls nervously. She had never fought in a battle like this. Her hands shook as she guided her small fighter through the narrow sector, weaving past invisible forces and coordinating with others through silent communication. Then she saw it, a massive alien ship trapped in the gravitational tangle, its weapons unable to lock onto any target. She held her breath and transmitted a simple report. Sector 12 secured. One target immobilized. Elena allowed herself a small nod. Excellent. Keep the pressure. Do not let them regroup. On board the Zorath, panic had taken hold. Crevis's 4 eyes darted over the holographic display, searching for any flaw in human positioning. They cannot be controlling so many points at once, he growled. There must be a mistake. Tell me there is a mistake. Voral's voice trembled as she replied. No, Crevis. The humans have planned everything perfectly. They have lured us into corridors we cannot maneuver. We are trapped. The alien ships began to collide with one another in desperation, trying to break free. Energy beams misfired, shields overloaded, and massive vessels became entangled in their own formations. The Grand Armada, once proud and unstoppable, now struggled like fish caught in a net. Elena felt a pang of sorrow as she watched the chaos. The humans were winning, but victory always carried a cost. Every alien destroyed meant lives taken, and she knew that the Grand Armada was more than just machines. They were sentient beings, leaders and warriors with families, histories, and cultures. Yet she also knew that survival demanded action. If humanity hesitated, they would be crushed. Prepare boarding teams, she commanded. We will disable as many ships as possible without unnecessary destruction. Show them that humans fight, with intelligence, not just weapons. The boarding operations were precise. Small human craft slipped alongside massive alien vessels, cutting through armor and deploying teams to seize control of key systems. The aliens, confused and disoriented by the gravitational traps, could only respond slowly, their efforts futile, against humans who moved with a quiet, deadly efficiency. Back in the corridors of space, Crevis realized the truth too late. We underestimated them, we mocked them, and now we are paying the price. His voice was not anger anymore. It was disbelief mingled with fear. Voral, her mandibles trembling, whispered, "They are stronger than we imagined. Smarter. Far smarter than any of us believed." Elena watched from her bridge as the alien ships struggled and faltered. She felt the weight of humanity in that moment, the courage of millions who had survived against impossible odds. They were not just a fleet, they were a symbol. Every human aboard those ships carried the spirit of a species that refused to be dominated. Hold fast, she murmured. They will not break us, not now, not ever. As the first night passed in the void, the human fleet tightened the trap. Alien squadrons were isolated, their numbers diminished by confusion and clever human tactics. Humanity's patience and ingenuity had turned the tide, proving that even against overwhelming odds, courage and intellect could triumph. Somewhere, in the chaos, Krivus's voice broke the silence with a hiss of fury. This is not over. We will adapt. We will destroy them. We are the Grand Armada. But Elena knew the truth. The humans had already adapted. They had turned the galaxy into a battlefield where human cunning outmatched alien arrogance. And as the stars shimmered above, humanity prepared for the next move, ready to push the Grand Armada even further into despair. The trap was set. The aliens were caught. And humanity, small but unyielding, was only just beginning to reveal its power. The alien fleet had been lured deep into human territory, trapped in the corridors of space that Captain Elena Marcus and her team had so carefully chosen. The Grand Armada, once confident and mocking, now floundered. Energy beams misfired, ships collided, and their massive formations crumbled under the subtle precision of human tactics. The patience of humanity had paid off, and now it was time for the first decisive strike. Elena stood on the bridge of her flagship, eyes calm but determined. Her hand rested lightly on the console, giving subtle commands, each one measured and purposeful. "Prepare strike teams," she ordered softly. "We will disable as many Vesu. Prepare for the next phase," she said quietly. "We press the advantage. Every misstep they make becomes our opportunity. We guide them, but we do not overreach. Humanity survives through strategy and patience, not recklessness." Ryu looked at her, awe in his eyes. "Captain, they are panicking. Entire squadrons are abandoning formation. They have lost the will to fight together." Elena nodded, her expression calm but intense. "Exactly. Let them see what happens when arrogance blinds judgment. Let them experience fear, not through brute force, but through understanding that their assumptions were wrong. Humanity has the mind, the heart, and the courage to turn the tide." In the outer reaches of the human trap, alien ships collided. Weapons backfired, and some surrendered without even engaging. Panic spread like a contagion, and the once mocking generals could do nothing to halt it. The Grand Armada was fracturing not because of the human size, but because of their ability to think, to plan, and to act with unyielding purpose. Elena allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The humans were showing the galaxy that survival was not only about strength, but about unity, ingenuity, and determination. Every pilot, every soldier, every crew member carried that message in their actions. And in that moment, a quiet truth emerged in the void. The Grand Armada, mighty, and feared for centuries, had learned what countless civilizations had failed to understand. To mock humanity was to invite defeat. To underestimate courage, intellect, and resolve was to doom even the strongest. As the human fleet tightened its grip, the aliens' fear became palpable, radiating through the remaining vessels. The corridors of space, once a battlefield, had become a stage where humanity demonstrated the power of heart, mind, and unity. And somewhere deep in the heart of the Grand Armada, Krivus and Vorel realized the terrifying truth. Humans were not just survivors, they were victors in the making. The galaxy held its breath as the humans pressed their advantage, proving to all who watched that courage and intelligence could topple even the most overwhelming power. Humanity had turned the tide. The Grand Armada, once invincible and mocking, was now fractured, confused, and afraid. And in that fear, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning, one written by a small species who refused to be conquered. The void was alive with chaos. The Grand Armada, once proud and unshakable, twisted in panic. Their warships, colossal in size and strength, were colliding like blind beasts, tearing each other apart in desperation. Human tactics had turned their arrogance into confusion. and now their power was crumbling. On the human flagship, Captain Elena Marcus stood steady, her eyes fixed on the display of stars and fleets. She saw the alien formations breaking, the once perfect discipline of the Armada dissolving into scattered fragments. For a moment, silence hung in her chest, heavy with meaning. Humanity had reached the breaking point of their enemy. Commander Ryu Tanaka leaned forward, awe in his voice. "Captain, squadrons 20 through 30 are in retreat. They've abandoned the fight. Entire wings are fleeing the trap." Elena's lips pressed into a thin line. She did not rejoice. She did not smile. Instead, she whispered, "So it begins. The mighty Armada learns fear." Across the void, General Krivas clawed at the air as though he could tear victory from the darkness itself. His voice shook with rage. "No, this cannot be happening. They are humans, insignificant vermin. How can vermin do this to us?" Voral's mandibles clicked in despair. "We mocked them, and now they outthink us at every step. Our weapons misfire. Our ships cannot move. They are using our strength against us." But Krivas refused to believe. His pride was too vast, his arrogance too deeply rooted. "Rally the remaining ships," and he thundered. "Crush them. If we must, burn the entire sector. Humanity will not leave this battlefield alive." Yet even as his words echoed across the Wama command deck, the Armada's remaining forces faltered. Fear had taken root, and no amount of shouting could erase it. Back in the human fleet, Elena stood tall. "All units." She spoke into the comms, her voice calm and strong. "The enemy is broken but not yet defeated. Hold your positions. Strike only when precision demands it. We are not here to destroy blindly. We are here to show the galaxy who humanity is." Her words carried across the fleet, filling every soldier and pilot with quiet strength. They did not feel like pawns in a desperate war. They felt like part of something larger, something eternal. Humanity itself stood with them in that moment, across the centuries of struggle, across the pain of every world lost. Lieutenant Mara Singh, in her fighter, felt her hands stop trembling as Elena's voice reached her. The fear in her chest lifted, replaced with a steady flame. "Acknowledged, Captain," she whispered. "We fight with honor." The second phase began. Human fleets moved not with haste but with elegance, guiding alien squadrons deeper into gravitational corridors, where their weapons failed and shields cracked. The humans struck like shadows, swift and precise, disappearing before the aliens could strike back. One alien battleship, massive enough to crush an entire city, drifted helplessly into a dense asteroid field. Human fighters circled it like hawks, striking at its engines and disabling its weapons. Instead of exploding in fire, the ship went silent, captured rather than destroyed. "Target neutralized," Mara reported. Elena listened to the report and closed her eyes briefly. Another victory, but not of destruction. This is how we show them. On the Zorath, Krivas's fury became desperation. "They capture our ships now. They do not even destroy them. They humiliate us." His voice cracked with rage. "How dare they? How dare they treat the Grand Armada as prey?" Vorel, quieter than ever before, whispered, "Perhaps it is because we thought them prey first. We mocked them, and now they mock us not with words, but with victory." Her words struck Krivas like a blade. For the first time he felt the bitter taste of realization. Arrogance had blinded him, and now his fleet was crumbling. Back in the human fleet, Captain Elena's eyes softened as she watched another alien squadron scatter in fear. "This is the moment," she said. "The moment where they begin to understand they thought us weak, they thought us foolish. But now, they see us as we truly are." Commander Ryu turned to her, his voice quiet but reverent. "Captain, we're not just winning a battle. We're changing everything. Every civilization watching this will know humans are not to be mocked." Elena nodded, her heart heavy with both pride and sorrow. "Yes, but remember, Ryu, victory is not just about winning. It is about surviving with our humanity intact." We fight with honor because that is what makes us strong. The breaking point of the Armada came in silence, not in fire, not in thunder, but in the quiet collapse of their will. Ships drifted without direction. Squadrons abandoned orders. Generals screamed commands into the void, but no one listened. For centuries, the Grand Armada had been the shadow of fear across the stars. Now, for the first time, they were the ones afraid of a species they had mocked, afraid of the courage that burned in human hearts. Elena looked out at the stars, her voice a whisper meant for her crew, for her people, for history itself. We are humanity, small, fragile, but unbroken. And today the galaxy learns that we are not to be underestimated. In the silence of space, the truth settled. The Grand Armada had reached its breaking point. Their power, once a storm, had been turned into chaos. And humanity, patient and clever, had proven that even the smallest flame could outshine the darkest night. The battle was not over, but the tide had turned forever. The stars burned quietly, yet the battlefield glowed with the wreckage of broken pride. The once mighty Armada was no longer a single unstoppable storm. It was now scattered sparks fading into the void. On the human flagship, Captain Elena Marcus stood tall, her hands clasped behind her back. Her eyes were fixed on the display screens, watching enemy formations collapse like sand slipping through fingers. Around her, the crew whispered in awe, voices trembling with the weight of history. "They're running," Commander Ryu Tanaka said, his voice thick with disbelief. "The Grand Armada is fleeing." Elena nodded slowly, but her heart did not leap with triumph. She knew the truth. A cornered beast was always the most dangerous. "They flee, yes," she said quietly, "but not all. Some will choose to fight. Until the end. We must be ready." Across the void on the alien flagship Zorath, General Krivas slammed his clawed fist into the control console. His eyes burned with madness and denial. "No more running," he roared at the broken commanders who stood before him. "We will gather what remains. We will strike, even if it destroys us all." But the silence in the room betrayed him. The alien officers no longer believed in his words. Their eyes shifted downward, shame and fear mixing in their hearts. They had followed Krivas with blind arrogance, laughing at the humans' strategies, dismissing them as unworthy. Now, that laughter felt like poison in their throats. Burrell, the quiet strategist, finally spoke. Her voice was soft, yet sharper than any blade. "General, we mocked them. We thought them children playing at war. But they are the storm we never expected. We are not fighting humans anymore. We are fighting their will. And their will is stronger than our pride." Krivas snarled, his pride refusing to bend. "You dare speak of surrender, of bowing to vermin?" Burrell did not look away. "I dare speak the truth. If we continue, we will not only lose this battle, we will lose our honor forever." "LS is possible. Focus on control, not destruction. We show them the intelligence of humanity, not just our power." Commander Ryu Tanaka nodded. "All boarding teams ready, Captain. Fighters are in position. Magnetic traps are stable." "Good," Elena replied, her voice steady. "Remember, we fight for survival, but we fight with honor. Let our courage be known, but not our cruelty." Across the void, the alien generals were still reeling. General Krivas's claws slammed against the console, shaking the table with frustration. "This is absurd," he roared. "Human fleets cannot control space like this. They are insignificant creatures, yet we are trapped." Forel's mandibles clicked sharply. "We must act, Krivas. Deploy boarding teams of our own. Crush them before they complete their strike." But the humans had already anticipated this. Hidden channels and traps had been set. As alien boarding teams approached, they found themselves ensnared in magnetic fields, unable to reach human ships. Fighters swooped in, guiding them into containment zones. For every alien ship attempting to attack, the humans had a counter, a response, a plan. The first human strike team moved with silent precision. Small, agile ships approached massive alien vessels from angles that sensors could not detect. Boarding pods launched, each carrying highly trained humans equipped with specialized equipment to seize control. They did not aim to kill unnecessarily. Their goal was to disable, to take control, and to demonstrate that humanity's intelligence matched its courage. Lieutenant Mara Singh guided her pod alongside a massive alien destroyer. The vessel's hull loomed over her like a mountain in space, its energy shields pulsing rhythmically. She swallowed her fear, remembering the stories of past battles humans had fought. Worlds burned, fleets lost, but her people had survived. She and her team would not fail. Docking secure, Mara reported. Entering hull now. Inside the alien vessel, chaos had already begun. Alien crews struggled to understand why their systems were failing, why sensors were malfunctioning, and why smaller human teams moved like ghosts, disabling weapons and taking control of critical stations. Mara and her team moved swiftly, precise, efficient. Every command she gave, every action, was calculated. Within moments, the vessel's core systems were under human control. Target disabled, she whispered into her comm. We have control of the vessel. Minimal casualties. Back on the flagship, Elena allowed herself a small nod. The human fleet had now completed the first wave. The alien generals, who had mocked human strategy for decades, had begun to understand the price of arrogance. Their fleet was no longer a monolithic force. Ships were disabled, crews confused, formations broken. The Grand Armada was in disarray. Krivas's voice was hoarse with disbelief. Impossible, we cannot. How can so few? Vorel's clicking mandibles betrayed her fear. They are smarter, far smarter than we imagined. Our advantage is gone. The humans did not celebrate. There was no cheering, no boastful cries. Each crew member knew that this was just the beginning. The first strike had succeeded, but the battle was far from over. Humanity had proven its intelligence, its courage, its resilience, but there were still challenges ahead. Elena's gaze swept across her bridge. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers worked seamlessly, each aware of their role, each trusting in the other. Prepare for extraction, she said. We do not linger, we strike, we disable, and we retreat. The galaxy is watching. Humanity shows that we fight not for vengeance, but for survival and honor. As the human fleet pulled back from the first strike, alien communications erupted with confusion and panic. Messages of retreat, repair, and warnings flew through the Grand Armada's networks, but it was too late. The humans had proven that size and numbers alone were not enough to dominate. Intelligence, strategy, and unity had turned the tide. Yet even in their victory, the humans felt the weight of responsibility. Elena's voice softened as she addressed her crew. Remember this moment. We have shown what humanity can do, but never forget why we fight. Not for glory, not for power, but to ensure our survival and the survival of all who depend on us. Somewhere in the corridors of the alien fleet, Krivas and Vorel struggled to maintain control. Every attempt to regroup was met with unexpected resistance, with invisible maneuvers that confounded their sensors and calculations. They had mocked humanity as weak, chaotic, and unworthy, but now they realized the truth. Humans were clever, adaptive, and relentless. Elena watched from her bridge as the stars reflected in the eyes of her crew. The first strike had been successful, but more importantly, it had sent a message. Humanity could not be underestimated. Humanity could survive, even against the vast arrogant might of the Grand Armada. Prepare for the next phase, she said quietly. We will continue to guide the enemy, to turn their arrogance against them. Every move counts. Every decision matters. Today, we showed them that humans are not insignificant. Tomorrow, we will show them the consequences of underestimating us. In the silence of space, the human fleet moved steadily, confident and prepared. The first strike was over, but the war was just beginning, and somewhere in the hearts of the alien generals, fear had begun to take root. The first taste of the humiliation and defeat they had never imagined they would face. Humanity had struck first, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Grand Armada had never known defeat. For centuries, its generals had commanded fleets that crushed civilizations, conquered worlds, and scattered enemies across the galaxy. Yet now, deep within human territory, everything they believed was unraveling. Ships that should have been unstoppable were immobilized. Squadrons that should have been coordinated were trapped and isolated. And worst of all, their arrogance had blinded them to the intelligence and courage of humanity. On board the Zorath, General Krivas's 4 eyes burned with fury. His claws struck the console again and again. "How is this possible?" he shouted. "They are only human. They cannot control so many vessels with so few resources." Beside him, Voral's mandibles clicked with nervous agitation. "It is more than control, it is strategy, patience, unity. They are not what we mocked them to be." Krivas turned sharply to her. "This is not weakness. This is an affront. They dare defy the Grand Armada and live." But the truth was clear. The humans had not only defied them, they had outsmarted them. Every move the aliens made played into a trap set by humans long before the first engagement. The corridors of space were littered with immobilized ships, disoriented crews, and misfired energy beams. Even their largest vessels, designed to dominate entire systems, now struggled to maneuver. Captain Elena Marcus observed from her flagship as the first signs of panic rippled through the alien fleet. "They are beginning to falter," she said, softly to her second-in-command, Commander Ryu Tanaka. "Patience. Let them fall into disarray. Let fear guide their mistakes." Ryu nodded. "It is incredible, Captain. They are losing cohesion faster than we predicted." Elena's eyes reflected the stars. "This is the cost of arrogance. They mocked humanity, and now they are paying the price. But remember, we are not here to destroy indiscriminately. We are here to survive and prove that intelligence and courage are not bound by size or numbers." In the corridors of space, human strike teams moved with quiet precision. Small fighters darted through immobilized alien ships, guiding them into containment zones or disabling them entirely. Boarding crews took control of key systems, often before the alien crews even realized what had happened. Every successful operation spread fear further, turning the once confident Grand Armada into a fleet of confusion and terror. Lieutenant Mara Singh guided her small fighter alongside a massive alien cruiser. The enormous ship groaned under its own weight as it drifted helplessly in the magnetic trap. Mara's voice, steady despite her adrenaline, reported back. "Sector 17 secured, cruiser immobilized, no fatalities." "Excellent work," Elena replied. "Every success reminds them they underestimated humanity. Every victory, no matter how small, shapes the outcome of this war." Within the alien fleet, panic was contagious. Squadrons tried to regroup, but their movements became chaotic. Communications broke down as misfires and sensor failures spread confusion. Generals barked orders, but crews could not respond in time. Energy shields overloaded, weapons misfired, and massive ships collided with one another in desperation. The once unstoppable Armada was falling apart from within. Krivas's claws trembled as he slammed them against the console. "No. This cannot be. We are the Grand Armada. Humans cannot. They are too few." Voral's voice was almost a whisper, tinged with fear. "They are cleverer than we imagined. Stronger. Relentless. We thought them weak, but they are unstoppable in ways we cannot measure." But the humans were not stopping. Captain Elena's fleet had learned to use fear as a tool, guiding alien movements without firing a single shot in many cases. The Grand Armada was breaking itself, driven by confusion and desperation, while the humans watched and struck with careful precision. Elena felt the weight of the moment. Her crew worked tirelessly, understanding that this was more than a battle. It was a statement. Humanity, small and underestimated, could challenge the most powerful force in the galaxy and win, not through sheer power, but through courage, intellect, and unity. Back in the human fleet, the voice of Lieutenant Mara Singh echoed over comms. "Captain, enemy ships are breaking apart. Some are abandoning weapons, others are signaling distress. They are finished." Elena breathed deeply. Her eyes softened as she looked at the stars ahead. Not finished, Lieutenant, but changed. They will never be the same. The human fleet advanced with precision, not like predators drunk on victory, but like guardians holding their ground. Ship after ship disabled enemy vessels, targeting engines instead of hearts. Fighters danced through the battlefield, choosing control over slaughter. This was humanity's strength, not only the ability to win, but the choice to win with restraint. For the aliens, the humiliation was unbearable. 1,000 years of supremacy unraveled in a single campaign, undone by the very species they had mocked. Their generals, once arrogant and proud, now whispered in despair. On the Zorath, Vorel turned to Kryvis. "Look at them," she said, pointing at the humans' careful tactics. "They could destroy us all, but they choose not to. They do not fight as beasts. They fight as something greater." Kryvis's claws trembled, his rage, once boundless, now twisted into fear. Why? Why would they not finish us? "Because," Vorel whispered, "they do not need to. Victory has already been written." On the human flagship, Elena stood in silence, watching the Armada collapse. Around her, her crew cheered softly, but she lifted a hand, calming them. "Do not rejoice too loudly," she said gently. "Remember the cost. Remember the lives lost to bring us here. Every fallen soldier deserves our silence, not our laughter." Her words settled heavily in the hearts of her people. They remembered the ruined colonies, the burned worlds, the tears of mothers and fathers. This victory was not just theirs. It belonged to all of humanity, to every soul who had suffered beneath alien arrogance. As the last remnants of the Armada scattered into the dark, Elena's voice echoed through the fleet. "We came here mocked. We came here doubted. But we leave as something greater. Today the galaxy learns that humanity will not be broken. Today we carve our place among the stars." Her words carried like fire, burning into the spirits of every human who heard them. Pilots wept in their cockpits, soldiers clenched their fists in pride, and even those who once doubted humanity now knew the truth. They were no longer the forgotten species. Far away, in secret corners of the galaxy, other civilizations watched the battle through hidden eyes. Races who had once laughed at humans now stared in silence, their pride shaken, their respect growing. They whispered among themselves, if humanity could humble the Grand Armada, then perhaps humanity was not weak at all. Perhaps they were destined for something greater. On the Zorath, Kryvis sank into his command chair, his power gone. His voice cracked as he whispered, "We have lost everything." But Vorel stood tall, her eyes fixed on the human fleet, glowing in victory. "No," she said softly. "We have not lost everything. We have lost our pride and gained the truth. The humans are not to be mocked. They are to be remembered." Her words echoed in the silence of the alien command deck, a truth none could deny. In that moment, the Grand Armada was no longer a terror of the stars. It was a broken shadow, fleeing from the light of a new dawn, and humanity, once dismissed, once laughed at, was that dawn. The war was not over, but the balance had shifted. Forever. The galaxy had gone quiet. The echoes of the battle still floated in space like ghostly whispers, but the guns had fallen silent. What remained was not the roar of war, it was the heavy weight of change. Humanity had stood before the Grand Armada, mocked and dismissed, and now the Armada was no more. On Earth, the news spread faster than light itself. In cities filled with sorrow, bells rang in triumph. Families who had feared the extinction of their people stepped into the streets, tears shining on their faces. Children clutched flags, old veterans embraced one another, and strangers became brothers and sisters. In a single heartbeat, the words passed from mouth to mouth, from world to world, until every human colony knew. We survived. We endured. We won. But victory was not only measured in cheers, it was measured in graves. Captain Elena Marcus stood on the deck of the flagship, her gaze fixed on the long list of names scrolling across the memorial wall. Each name was a soldier, a pilot, an engineer, human lives given to protect their species. The silence in the room was deep, broken only by the sound of steady breathing. She raised her voice softly, but every word carried power. They gave their lives so that our children would see the stars without chains. They gave their courage so that we would never bow again. Remember them, not as the fallen, but as the guardians of our future. The crew bowed their heads. Some wept openly, others clenched their fists. But all of them felt the same fire burning. Inside, the fire of unity. The fire of being more than what the galaxy thought them to be. Far away in hidden halls across the galaxy, alien councils gathered. The same generals who had laughed at humanity now sat in silence, their faces pale with shame. They whispered in disbelief. How did they do this? One asked. They had no vast fleets, no centuries of warcraft. How? The answer came quietly, spoken by a young advisor who had studied humanity. They fought with something we never understood. They fought not for conquest, but for each other, for their families, for hope. That is a power we never honored. The room grew still. For the first time, aliens who had once mocked humanity felt something new, respect and fear. On the remnants of the alien Armada, the surviving strategist Vorel stood among broken warriors. Their empire had shattered, their pride reduced to dust. Yet she raised her voice to her people. We thought ourselves eternal. We thought no power could humble us. But the humans showed us truth. They are not prey. They are not weak. They are the rising storm. And if we wish to survive, we must learn not to mock them but to respect them. Her words spread among the survivors, carried on whispers until the very races who once laughed at humans now bowed their heads when the name humanity was spoken. Back on Earth, the United Council of Humanity gathered in a great hall. Leaders from colonies, stations, and fleets filled the chamber. The war was over, but a new path had opened. Admiral Juno, his voice deep and calm, addressed them. We were mocked. We were called fragile. But in the fire of war we discovered who we are. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. From this day forward, let every star know, we are here to stay. The hall thundered with voices. For the first time in history, all of humanity stood as one people, united not by fear but by pride. But in the quiet of her quarters, Captain Elena Marcus sat alone, staring at the stars. She did not see victory. She saw faces, the soldiers she had lost, the colonies that had burned, the families who would never be whole again. Her heart ached, yet she knew this truth. Their sacrifice had changed everything. Lieutenant Mara Singh entered the room softly. Captain, she said gently, the galaxy is speaking your name. They call you the defender of Earth. Elena shook her head. No, not me. It was not one captain or one ship or one fleet. It was all of us, every human who refused to give in. Remember that, Mara. Humanity won because humanity stood together. Mara smiled through her tears. Then let history remember us as one. The galaxy would never forget. Where once humans were dismissed as dreamers, now they were seen as warriors of will. Where once they were mocked, now their name carried weight heavier than iron. Other species who had lived in arrogance now measured their words carefully, for the humans had proven a truth no one could deny. It is not the size of the fleet that decides the future, it is the strength of the spirit. Years later, when the children of humanity looked up at the night sky, they did not feel fear. They did not see stars as distant and unreachable. They saw home. They saw promise. Songs were written about the battle. Stories were told around fires and in classrooms. Not stories of hate, but of endurance, of unity, of rising when no one believed they could. And the galaxy whispered a new name for them, the Dawn-Bearers. Because when the Armada vanished, when arrogance crumbled, and when the stars were forever changed, it was humanity that brought the dawn. Humanity had been mocked. Humanity had been doubted. But now, humanity stood eternal. and the galaxy would never laugh again.